See, isolation is the enemy to excellence. And if we really want to go to that next level, we have got to get in community, have trusted advisors, people that are unbiased, that don't have anything to win or lose as a result of the advice they give you. And these guys have challenged me. They've helped me. They've encouraged me. They've given me resources, ideas, networking, connections. And I'm like, why would I ever want to be alone?
How do we get in the heads of the thought leaders and industry experts of the world to find out what we can do today to become leaders that people want to follow? I'm your host, Conrad Schneider, and I welcome you to the Leaders Worth Following podcast. I believe each and every man has the ability to live a life full of success and significance. These accomplishments can extend into your business, personal, as well as your spiritual life. This is a quote from our very own Big A, Aaron Walker. He's a professional life and business coach, mastermind group facilitator, a coach, and a trusted advisor, and an excellent man. Big A, welcome to the show.
Conrad, thanks for having me, buddy. It sounds like you're setting that bar pretty high. I don't know if I'll be able to make it. But
well, I told Big A before we jumped on, if I'm setting the bar high, he's miles above it already.
Man,
anybody listening to the show today is in for a treat. Big A's got a wealth of experience, especially in leadership. He's got a magnetic personality. This is going to be an incredible learning opportunity for all of us. So I'm really excited to get going. I want to launch off with a question that I ask everybody, but I'm just so interested to hear your answer to this. What was the first leadership position that you held, and what led you to that point?
Yeah, this is unusual, so I've got to give you a little context before I can answer the question. Is that okay?
Yeah, hit us. Go for it.
So when I was 13 years old, my dad invited me to go help him remodel a beauty shop, turn it into a pawn shop. And I'm like, I don't even know what a pawn shop is, and I know what a beauty shop is, but all I want to know is, can I make some money? He said, yeah, you can make some money. I said, I'm in. So I spent the summer working with my dad, remodeling this beauty shop, turning it into a pawn shop. I was 13 years old at the time. Well, by the time we got through with it, I asked the owner, I said, hey, I go to school just down the street. Can I work here in the afternoons and on Saturday? And he goes, what would you do? I said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And he goes, you're hired. And I said, that's the shortest interview in history, right? I mean, this guy hires me in a 15-second invitation to work there. I made $1.70 an hour. I worked 2.5 hours every day and all day on Saturday. And I did that until I was 18 years old. Fell in love with that business, met a couple of guys, had a lot of money because I didn't have any. Like, I was broker than a convict. I mean, I didn't have any money. And I went to these guys and said, let's take my experience and your money and open a pawn shop. And they said, how old are you? And I said, I'm 18. Well, they started checking on me in the community and at my church, and they found out I was a pretty decent guy, and they agreed to do it. So I gave up 2/3 of the business to get their money. I kept 1/3. We built that company to the size that a Fortune 500 bought it when I was 27 years old. And so that gave me some opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise. It was kind of a catalyst that kind of put me on a journey I wasn't prepared for. Look back now, over 43 years, and I go, man, God has blessed us with 14 businesses over the course of that 43 years. So my first leadership experience was at age 18, starting my own business.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Now, this is interesting because most people don't start this way, right? This is a unique thing. Who was mentoring you through all of this?
Nobody at the time.
Nobody.
At the time, it was, I'm going to tell you some stories that I think will help you understand just a little bit more. I got to go way back. I got to be transparent and vulnerable here for a minute. So I came from a very poor family. Right. I mean, when I say poor, I'm talking, we lived in a $6,500 house, 600 square feet. There were 4 children. My dad never made over $15,000 a year in his career. My mom would put canned goods in the pantry and nail a board over it during the summer so we would have food in the winter. So I know all about being broke.
Right.
When I was about 7 or 8 years old, I watched my dad sweep the snow off of a roof, tear off the roof, re-roof the house in the middle of the winter so we'd have money to buy food. So I know about being broke, okay? So I wasn't really being technically mentored. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life at that time, but I knew I didn't want to do that.
Right.
And oftentimes fear is a great motivator, right? Yeah. It'll take us to places that training and mentoring won't take us. And so I really set out to aspire to be more than what I was raised. My dad was a great man, great character, integrity, honest. He was all those things, but he sucked as a businessman really bad. My dad wanted to hunt and fish. That's what my dad wanted to do. And so he didn't spend any time honing and developing his skills. Well, I got married 2 weeks out of high school. And I said, Robin, we cannot mess this up. Like, you come from a poorer family than I do, and we're going to take all the money that we make off of this new company, and we're going to pour it back into the business. So I started out with an $18,000 salary, and I did that for 9 years. We had 2 little girls during the interim period. We lived in a really small 1-bedroom condominium that I bought, and I poured all the money back into the company. And then when I was 27, I was able to have built something because I delayed gratification to build something big enough that a Fortune 500 would want.
Yeah.
And so the problem today, not with everybody, but is that we don't want to experience delayed gratification. We want all the bells and whistles. We want the big house. We mortgage ourselves to the hilt. We leverage ourselves in every arena. And then we have these golden handcuffs, and we have no margin in our lives, and we're strapped to a job that we don't even enjoy. And so what my mission has become is to helping other people delay that gratification, learn the value of reinvesting into your company so that one day you can, as my friend Dave Ramsey says, live like no one else.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Gosh. Okay. What an example. And what a principle for today. It's funny. I've had a lot of guests on the show, and this topic has not come up yet of delayed gratification. But that's a powerful principle, because inherent in that, and again, the purpose of this show being to help people become better, more effective, more powerful leaders, delayed gratification in your efforts to be successful, especially in the entrepreneurial world, like you're saying, is invaluable, right? You've got to have patience. You have to have vision. And then moving over into we can say the spiritual realm, is you've got to have hope and you've got to have faith, right? Yeah. That what you're doing is going to be worth it.
Yeah. Let's break it down a little bit further into a more of a granular, digestible means by which your audience can participate. So
please.
The thing that you said first is vision. And Scripture even teaches us where there is no vision, the people perish. And so we've got to really focus on what it is that we want. And people don't stop to think about this. All they want is bigger, better, shinier, faster. Just give me more. Rather than going, okay, how can I live proactively rather than reactively? How can I sit down with my significant other, my spouse, my children, my family, our unit? How can we sit down and say, what is it that we want? Where do we want to live? How much money do we want to make? How much money do we want to give away? How many vacations a year do we want to take? See, we don't spend the time necessary to create the vision. What would it look like in the future if this were to happen? We created a program called Come As You Will Be, and we do it in our mastermind group. Our mastermind group is called Iron Sharpens Iron. We now are in about 5 or 6 different countries. We have 150 members participating in 15 groups around the world, and we do it virtually, but we can do it in a manner that we walk people through the steps to create that success and significance in their life. So what we've done is created a framework that allows us to be aspirational in the 5 key areas of your life: personally, professionally, relationally, spiritually, and financially. And what we do is look out 36 months and we say, where do I want to be then? And we go down and list these aspirations under all 5 key areas. And then you have to go before your group. There's 10 people in a group, and you have to present it as though it's already happened. You have to say, here I am today, Conrad, and I am so excited that I've got a New York Times bestseller. The relationship with my wife has never been better. We now have 2 children. I now make $350,000 a year. I bought my first real estate investment. Whatever the case is for you. And then we back up and we devise a strategy that we use Brian Moran's 12-week year, and we map out the task you've got to do each and every day in order to accomplish the goal. See, what happens is people focus on the goal and they forget the task. If you'll do the task, the goal will take care of itself.
Yeah.
And so now it's digestible, one bite at a time. You have immense accountability every week. Hey, Conrad, you said you were going to do this. Did you do your task this week? Well, you're not going to want to go in that group and go, I'm a loser, like I didn't do it. You're like, yes, I did.
Yeah.
And then you're going to limp along and you're going to say, hey, man, I'm moving the needle. This thing is happening. Yes, it's happening because you're consistent. And every day you're doing the task. And then you wake up in 36 months and you go, man, I've accomplished even more. We have people now that are tweaking the dial because they underestimated what they can do when they get this laser focus.
Whoa.
And that's what my journey has been for all these entrepreneurs around the world.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Okay. I'm going to be honest. I'm taking notes because it's things like this that, like you said, it's digestible. It's immediately applicable, right? And for the record, his mastermind and everything that Aaron, Big A, is involved in is going to be linked in the description to this episode. Wow. So stepping back to what you just said, having that vision and breaking it down after you decide this is where I'm going to be, and having those daily tasks, right?
Now we know where we're going, Conrad, right? Right? If you aim at nothing, I guarantee you every time you'll get there, right? It's like now we have boundaries, we have guardrails, we have a vision, we have aspirational goals in every area of our life. And now when you get ready to make a decision, you see if it aligns to your vision. If it doesn't align to your vision, then no is the obvious answer. I'm not going to do that thing because it's not going to take me closer to my vision.
Right.
But we don't spend the time investing in creating the vision.
This is going to be so invaluable to everybody listening, because a large majority of the listeners will be those people who are entrepreneurial. They're looking to build something. They want to do something for themselves. And many of us, I mean, myself included, right? You know, I've got this, I'd like to be here. I'd like to be here, but nothing as concrete as that. You know, something with a firm foundation that you can build on it. That is a powerful, powerful principle.
I created a document years ago called What Do I Want? And there's about 25 questions on this document. I'm happy to give that to your audience as well for no charge. If they would like to reach out to me, I'll give you that document. And what it does is it walks you through asking yourself difficult questions. If there were no financial contingencies and nothing was holding you back, what would you do with your life tomorrow? And the majority of the people can't answer that. They don't know what they would do tomorrow because they're not thinking through. Listen, let me encourage your audience. This is the only life you get. You're living it now on this side of heaven, right? From a carnal standpoint, why would you not want to maximize that time? I want to see the world. I want to enjoy the things that God has put out there for us. Nice house, nice cars, nothing wrong with any of those things, long as you don't make that your God, right? Long as you go out there and you have your priorities prioritized, man, there is so much of the world you can see. There's so many things that you can enjoy with your family. You can enjoy great education, great food, a beautiful home, but you've got to be strategic in nature. You've got to be willing to delay the gratification to get those things at the appropriate time. I've had the benefit of doing something for a long period of time that's really ingrained this into me, and some of it will make sense in a minute, Conrad. You probably don't even know this. But in the early 90s, you weren't even born, first of all, but in the early 90s.
92.
Okay. You were in diapers when this happened. So I was headed to the office. And there was a Chamber of Commerce, Madison Chamber of Commerce was having a breakfast. and they were having a guest speaker. So I just, a knee-jerk reaction, said, I'm going to go this morning, and went, heard the speaker. And after it was over, he was pretty intriguing. And I went up to him and I said, hey, I own a business just up the street. Why don't you come check it out? I think it might align with some of the things that you're saying. He came and looked and loved it. He goes, man, this is unbelievable. I love this. He said, would you advertise on a radio show that I'm starting here in Nashville? And I said, I don't even know who you are. I never even heard of you. And he said, well, I'll give you a free week if you'll try me. If you'll just try me, I'll give you a free week. And after that, you'll have to pay. And I said, okay, I'm a smart business guy. It won't take me long. Yeah, I'll do it for a free week. So I tried it for 3 days. He had just started this radio show. I tried it for 3 days. Man, people were coming in. They were buying the products we were selling. I called him and I said, man, I have no idea what this is you're doing, but sign me up. Like, I want to be one of your sponsors. And he goes, you'll have to sign an annual contract. I said, dude, we go from a week free to you're going to make me sign an annual contract? He said, yeah, you'll have to advertise every single day for a year. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I took a flyer on it. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So I signed an annual contract. Well, that was my first encounter with Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey was the speaker. And I spent the next 21 years sponsoring his show. Dave and I became very close friends, and decades ago, he invited me to be in his personal mastermind group that he was starting. And I said, I don't even know what a mastermind group is. And he said, come to my office. I'll introduce you to the guys that I've invited. And so I went home and told Robin, my wife, I said, Robin, I don't want to go. This guy's going to be all up in my face. He's going to be asking me all these personal questions. And she said, why don't you just go try it? Why don't you just go check it out? And I said, I don't want to go. She goes, just go check it out. So I went, I sat around the table week after week after week. These guys were pouring their heart out. They were sharing problems with their kids, with their spouse, cash flow problems. And I went home one day excited about 3 months. And Robbie goes, what are you so excited about? I said, they're more screwed up than I am. And I said, I have found my people. And she started laughing. And I said, these guys are real. They're genuine. So we spent the next dozen years every Wednesday morning pouring into each other, being vulnerable, being transparent, being authentic, because that's where real strength begins, at that intersection. And Conrad, it has taught me so much to go further with a community than you go alone. See, isolation is the enemy to excellence. And if we really want to go to that next level, we have got to get in community. Have trusted advisors, people that are unbiased. They don't have anything to win or lose as a result of the advice they give you. And these guys have challenged me. They've helped me. They've encouraged me. They've given me resources, ideas, networking, connections. And I'm like, why would I ever want to be alone? And my life just exponentially grew as a result of that. The success I've had is immeasurable because of the people I've surrounded myself with. Now, a lot of people obviously listen to this and go, well, sure, who wouldn't want to be in a mastermind with Dave Ramsey?
Yeah.
He wasn't the Dave Ramsey you know today then. See, it's because of this level of masterminding and community and accountability that he, along with other guys like Dan Miller, 48 Days to the Work You Love, Jeff Mosley, the guy that owns INO Records. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's because of things like I'm telling you that they've had this measure of success. So we have to have this level of accountability in our lives today if we're going to maximize our lives.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I love what you just said. I wrote it down because I'm like, that's got to be the tagline to the episode most likely, but isolation is the enemy to excellence, right? What a beautiful truth. I think to a lot of people starting out, it's easy to feel alone, right? I think it's easy to feel alone because of how much you have to do. And, you know, as you look around you, it's easy to see people and say, they're successful. What am I doing wrong that's making me not successful like them? But you started from somewhere. Dave Ramsey started from somewhere. And the common theme I'm hearing here and this wisdom that you've shared with us is together. You're working together. You're in a community, a tight-knit community. You're being transparent. You're being authentic. And you're raising the tide together, if you will.
Well, see, here's the thing. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And see, Jeff Hoffman is a guy that started Priceline. And I talked to him at a conference, and he said he reads every day. And he said 10% of what he reads every day has no application to anything he enjoys or does. And I'm like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. He said, the vast majority of all the great successes I've had have come out of that 10% reading. I said, why is that? He said, it opens up new avenues. It opens up new perspective. It opens up new insight. You didn't even know to think about that. You see, that's what masterminds do. Yeah. You're sitting around a table or you're sitting virtually with 10 other people, and you haven't lived their life experiences. You haven't walked in their shoes. You haven't done their business. And when they allow you to come in freely and they share openly and they're vulnerable with their mistakes and their wins, you're like, I can take that and put it with this thing that I'm doing, and it's going to make all the difference in the world. We can't live long enough to know everything. And so when you get other people in the room that call you out, that hold you accountable, that walk with you, that give you ideas and suggestions and resources and networking, everything changes. Yeah. And we just can't do it alone as effective as you can when you're in community. It's just not possible.
Yeah. I mean, therein is one of the most powerful principles, I think, for anybody to be learning, right, is that not only can you not do it alone, don't try to do it alone. And you don't have to. You've got this wealth of masterminds. And again, they'll all be linked because I want people to check them out. Incredibly powerful, incredibly effective. But there are, aside from these masterminds too, if people will network and reach out to other people around them, especially people like-minded in their goals, in their vision, and it doesn't mean like the same exact vision, but the same scale of the vision, right? They will find people that can help them, like you're saying. They will find people to make a community. Essentially, it'll be an unofficial mastermind, if you will. But
that works a little bit, but let me caution your audience on that. If it's not structured and there's not the proper framework that presents itself in a methodical manner, just getting together and talking, and you end up talking about the biggest fish you caught or your best golf game or all the beer you're drinking or who's winning the Super Bowl. Like, that's not how you really grow. You really grow with a plan, with a framework that makes you do the work, that puts your head down, that structurally every single week there's going to be value there. We're not going to waste time, our most precious commodity. We're not going to waste that. We're going to maximize that. And you look up one day with this intense focus. Dave Ramsey is probably one of the most focused individuals I've ever been around in my entire life. And I've seen him time in and time out over these 30 years that we've been friends now. He'll say, is it on the plan? No, then we're not doing it. We're staying the course. We're going to do this thing. That's why he's got 1,200 employees now. That's why he's got multi, I don't know how many millions, not even sure he knows himself. I'm just saying it's because of that intensity. It's that focus. He will call you out. We call each other out. We help each other. In the masterminds that we've got right now, ISI, we call each other to task. We say, you can't do that, and here's why. You can't behave that way. It's going to get you in trouble. You keep going down that path, you're going to be divorced. You keep drinking like that, you're going to be a drunk and lose your kids. You keep not working every single day, you're going to lose all your money and bankrupt. You can't do that. Here's what you've got to do in order to be successful. We can't just focus on ourselves. It's not about you being a taker. It's about you being a giver. And the more you give, the more you're going to get to manage. You become a good steward. And I'm just telling you, there's foundational principles that we're not living by today. No one is calling anybody out. They're afraid to. I don't want to get in their business. I invite you to get in my business. I want you to know about my business because I want to be better. Don't let me run off a cliff. Like, let's get in together. Let's do the camaraderie. Let's lock arms. Let's get in and figure it out together. And when we do that, you go way further than you can go alone.
Now, I'm going to pick out another principle I noticed here that I think you mentioned it, but today it's especially applicable, like you were saying, and that is your boldness and your fearlessness in standing up for what you know is right. As a leader, as anyone trying to be a leader, it can be intimidating to do that. But I know, and you know, that if you do it, if you stand up for what's right, if you're principled, if you're moral, you will attract people like you, and you will attract people who are looking for a firm foundation to build on, right?
Well, here's the thing, Conrad. Let's just be honest here while we're talking this morning. So where there is no conflict, there is no influence. And the greater the conflict, the greater the influence. We're staying on Dave Ramsey for a minute just because he's a friend. We've been talking about him. So there's people that hate his guts, right? No question about it. They wouldn't listen to him. They wouldn't walk across the street to watch him tomorrow. But he does have 12 million listeners every day on 700 radio stations. He's in the top 5 podcasts in the world today. He is not afraid of conflict. He is not conflict avoidant. He knows what he stands for. He believes in it. It's not for everybody. He's not trying to reach everybody. He's trying to reach the people that are the massive fans of what he teaches, and it's not for everybody. Think of the influence that he's had in people's lives, right? Whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny the impact that he's had on millions of lives, right? Yeah. And so if we're not courageous and we don't know where we stand, right? Scripture even teaches, I'm a Christian by faith, and so I don't want to straddle the fence. The Scripture teaches us not to be lukewarm. I don't want to be lukewarm. I want to take a position. I want to stand for something. That's why for me, my core values are relationships matter most above everything. I want to make it amazing. I don't want to have any excuses. Everything is figure outable and truth before opinion. And for me, God's word is truth. That's where I established the line in the sand. If it says it in this book, for me, it's truth. If you just have an opinion, what are you basing that on? What truth are you basing just your opinion on? Right. If you're going to use that logic, I'll just say, hey, I'm going to come steal your car, right? Because I decide I want it. That's my opinion. I should deserve it. You don't. Right. We're not basing that foundationally on anything. So for me, my strong core value is truth before opinion. Let's establish what you believe. Then you're going to go out and be a leader. Then you're going to make an impact. Let's talk about Rosa Parks for a second. She lost everything. She went to jail. You know why? Because the consequences were worth the result. She was willing to go to jail. I'm going to make a stand today. I'm going to put a stake in the ground. I'm going to be willing to go to jail because I'm not riding in the back of the bus anymore. And she changed the paradigm shift of the way we live today as a result of it. You know what the problem is today? People don't want the consequences. See, there's the real trouble. It affects me, it affects my family, it affects my income, and I'm not going to say anything. Well, you know what I call people like that? Cowards. We don't need cowards. We need leaders. We need people that are willing to take the consequences. That's a leader. That's a person that I can get behind. That's a person I can support.
Gosh, I love that. Absolutely love that. For those that feel like this is a difficult thing, you're correct. At least from the standpoint, and I'm going to give some of my opinion. I want you to correct me, Big A, but at least from the perspective that making that paradigm shift to say, I'm going to be fearless and bold and courageous in what I'm doing, in my leadership and in my principles. But it's necessary. It's necessary to be successful. It's a common theme that I see across people who are truly successful is that they know who they are, right? They know who they are and they know what it hails back to that vision that we talked about earlier too.
How can we not know who we are if we're wanting to be a leader? We've got to spend the time. We got to do the reps. I go and work out at the gym. I can't just walk in the gym and look at the weights and get stronger. I have to go 3 days a week, and I've got to do 3 sets with 12 reps. I've got to increase the weight. It tears the muscle every time I go. I'm so sore I can't wipe my hind end at the end of the day. And tomorrow I'm stronger. I go back and I can do it again because I'm willing to go through the pain and the agony to get stronger. Yeah. See, if we're not willing to do that, you're never going to be a leader, ever. If you're worried about what people are saying, first of all, you're not that important. They're not talking about you that much, right? And we allow it to let it hold us down, right? None of us, me, you, Conrad, Dave Ramsey, nobody's important enough for people to be sitting around the dinner table talking about their successes or failures. Nobody's doing that. But we let it hold us back. Oh, man, they're going to be saying I failed at this. Listen, failure for me is in not trying, not in not succeeding. And if we're not willing to try, now you've lost, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'd rather lay in bed and go, I tried it and it didn't work, than to lay in bed and think, would it have worked?
Yeah.
And so I want to go out there and go for it. Like, we got one chance. This is it. Brevity of life is so short. Listen, in 2001, I ran over and killed a pedestrian, and it really heightened my awareness to the brevity of life. It took me 5 years to work through that. Counselors, coaches, I sold a business. I took time off. My wife woke me up from a nap one day. I gained 50 pounds. I was getting into bed in the middle of the day. She said, this is not what I signed up for. And you've got to get a hold of this, and you've got to move forward. And I had a friend of mine that told me, you're wearing the hell out of everybody around you because you can't get over this thing. It says in Isaiah, pick up yourself and move on. Take the chains from around your neck. It's time. If I didn't have a mastermind member like James Ryle in Dave Ramsey's group that was willing to call me out, I'd still be in a fetal position under the desk. And I wouldn't be serving my grandkids well. I wouldn't be serving my kids well. We got to have people around us that we love, that we trust, that can walk with us every single day, that'll tell us, hey, you got to get over this thing.
Yeah.
We are able to borrow their courage when we don't have any. They can hold our arms up when we're tired, and we can't do it alone. But we are so worried about what other people are thinking rather than being vulnerable and transparent and getting better. We never maximize our life.
Big A, if I had hours to spend talking to you, hearing the things that you've been saying, and I'm not flattering you one bit, I would sit here and just listen. I'm going to listen to my episode again. That these are true principles. They feel true. You know, there's some things when people say that some people say, maybe it's right, maybe it's not. These are things you can feel. These are things you can feel. I know that what Big A has said is true today. This is fantastic. I've got to start wrapping this up just because of the time constraint. I don't want to, but I've got to. So I got one final question for you.
Sure.
One final action item for the listeners. For those people who are looking to apply the principles that you shared with us today, that you taught us today, where are you sending them? Where are you sending them first?
Yeah, well, this sounds self-serving, because we lead mastermind groups. And quite honestly, I started this 11 years ago because Dave Ramsey and Dan Miller and those guys, Ron Doyle, they were telling me, you need to coach and teach these young guys how to do what you've done. You've been married now successfully at that time over 30 years. Robin and I next week celebrate 42 years of marriage.
Oh, congratulations.
And I want other people to pass that threshold as well. And so I started Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind. It's a community. It's literally a brotherhood. That's what we've got now. And guys in there are going in business together. They're walking together. They're doing the come as you will be exercise. They're holding each other accountable. They're meeting off site. They're vacationing together. They're starting businesses together. It's unbelievable at what's transpiring in this community. And if you're interested, for the first time in 4 years, we're starting new groups.
Wow.
And you're like, wow, that's crazy. It's like, man, do I really want to do this? I mean, do it because it takes a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? We've got a 10-person team that puts the effort in. We get together twice a year in person. We meet every single week on a video conference call. You're in a group with 10 other people, and you're doing what I'm talking about right now. We've had people 7, 8 years meeting in the same group. And I can't even begin to tell you the level of success that they've had over the course of that period of time because they're subjecting themselves to these other members. So, yeah, if that sounds intriguing at all, viewfromthetop.com would be the best place to go. It tells you more about our mastermind. We have hundreds of testimonials we can give you, people you can call. We're not for the faint at heart, though, Conrad. I'll just tell you right out of the gate. If you just want to get together and hang out and have a book club and talk about basketball, that's not us. If you're looking for that, don't call me because I don't have time to fool with that. If you want to move the needle, if you want to level up, in every area of your life and you're willing to put the reps in and you're like, hey, I'm like, where do I sign? If you're that kind of guy and you want to learn more, we want you to pray about it. We want you to think about it. We want you to talk to your spouse about it. We want you to call all the references. We want you to do your due diligence, listen to interviews that I've done. Like, I want you to know what you're getting in. Like, once you get all that satisfied and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, like, I need this to level up. That's the people we're looking for, that's willing to bring it, call people out, challenge each other. Like, that's the man that we're looking for. And so if you're interested, call me. I'd love to talk to you. Viewfromthetop.com.
Amazing. Linked in the description. If that's you, go check it out. If it's not you, listen to this episode again and start applying the principles that Big A is teaching us. They're timeless. They're true. I can't say anything more about them, but Big A, Aaron Walker, thank you for joining me. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Conrad. Have a good one, buddy. We'll see.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Leaders Worth Following podcast. If you've learned something new or enjoyed this or any other episode, please leave a rating and share it with somebody who needs some nuggets of wisdom. Lead on, friends.